Hello and welcome to Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, a show where we discuss different styles of beer, beer history, beer flavor profiles. We give shout outs to breweries we think make exceptional beer, and we talk about whatever else comes to mind while we're talking. So I'm Rob from the Internet. Let's talk about beer. All right, so joining me today is one of my Twitter friends. This is Ruvani de Silva. On the socials, I know her as Amethyst Heels, and I'm sure a lot of other people know her as Amethyst Heels. If you would, tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got into craft beer, and what you do when you're not talking to people like me about craft beer.
Sure. Well, it's very nice to meet you virtually, Rob, as we've been Twitter friends for some time now. Yep. So I am a food and beverage writer. I specialize in writing about beer and also drinking beer. So I'm British Sri Lankan. I live in Austin, Texas. I have been here for almost exactly 4 years now. So I'm very immersed in the local scene here in Austin. I love it. I'm very, very passionate about Texas beer. A lot of my writing that is not about Texas beer is about issues around diversity and inclusion in the beer industry. Those are sort of the two main things that I write about. But yeah, I'm not limited to that. I've got my first food and spirits pieces coming out pretty soon as well. So yeah, I'm sort of expanding my field, but yep, really the beer is the sort of the main driver.
Yes, and you post a lot of very good beers. Like just the other day, you posted one of my favorites, and it was one of my favorites when I lived in the States, and unfortunately I can't get it up here in Canada. But Shiner Bock, man, that is such a good simple beer. I mean, it's everything you want a Bock to be. It's got the right flavor profile. It's got that right aroma. I mean, they just knock that beer out of the park. It's one of the great standards.
Yep, I would completely agree. And also, I mean, it's a Texan classic.
It is. It is.
It's yeah. I was so excited when I went to the Shiner Brewery for the first time. I was sort of like jumping up and down, being very, very silly. Took a lot of pictures. It's really, really a beautiful place to visit. I would highly recommend it.
So you said you're British Sri Lankan. How did you end up in Austin, Texas?
I came here on holiday or vacation, as we say over here, many, many years ago. I really, really wanted to come and live here. I just totally fell in love with the city and with Texas. And yep, my husband's a dual British American citizen. We both wanted to live in the States. And I was like, yes, how about Austin? Come on, you're going to love it. It's amazing. Music city, beer city, barbecue city. And yeah, he totally went for it. So yep.
Awesome.
That worked.
Yeah, so I used to get down to Austin about twice a year. In a former life, I was an executive for a medical corporation, and Dell would bring me down a couple times a year to try and woo me to buy more stuff from them, and invariably we always ended up going places all over Austin. One of my favorites was every time I was down there, they made a point to take me to Franklin's Barbecue, so I could eat to my heart's content. And then I can't remember the name of it, but there used to be a donut shop down there that made donuts that are like the size of my head.
Oh gosh!
All right.
Wow.
Yeah. But the food down there is always great, and I mean,
yes,
it's probably been 10, 15 years since I've been. But one of the things I really loved about Austin was it just had that weird kind of quirky vibe to it. And that was like their city slogan was "Keep Austin Weird." I don't know if that's still the slogan down there or not, but it was always a good time. All right, so getting to the matters at hand, today we're going to be talking about lambics. Lambics are a style of beer from Belgium. They're typically wild or spontaneous fermented. And there's actually quite a few different variations of lambics. I am going to be drinking Fontenen's 3, which is a goose. If you're Dutch, it's a Joza, and if you're just a classic American, it's a goes. it's a great beer. It's one of the ones when it comes here, because we don't get a lot of the really premium beers where I live. I live kind of in a rural community. But when things like this come, they fly off the shelves for the people up here that are beer aficionados. This particular one is about $20 a bottle for like a little, I think it's a 375 ml bottle. So it's not a big bottle, and it's like $20. So I had to make sure I grabbed like 6 of them so that I had a few, because I knew I was going to drink a few before the show, and I wanted to have a couple after the show.
Indeed.
So for people who aren't familiar, this is a classic sour style beer. Like I said, it's spontaneous or wild fermented. Has bacterial plus yeast derived flavors in it. The goose style is actually one of the rare lambics, because it's a blended lambic. Typically, lambics are not blended beers, but the goose style is. They take old batches and blend them with new batches to try and temper the flavors a bit. It should have very, very little sweetness to it. They should be fully attenuated. So, every bit of sugar that was in the wort, it should be gone. Originated in the Brussels area. I don't remember exactly where this brewery is at. Let me quick look on my notes here. These guys are in Molenstraat in Beersel. So, so they're not too far outside of Brussels. They're in the Beersel area. But I'm gonna crack this puppy open.
I was going to say, as a sometime European, I couldn't actually bring myself to buy a Belgian lambic or a goose over here, because when I go back to the UK, I can get it much, much closer to the source.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show you guys some of the lambic style beers that we have here in Texas. We have a lot of breweries who are very, very into spontaneous fermentation. Jester King, most famously, in fact, who got into a whole thing with the High Council for Artisanal Lambic Beers. I was just reading to try and get themselves qualified as official lambics. It didn't quite work, but I believe a compromise was reached. But they are by no means the only ones. We have a new brewery. I don't have any of their beers with me today, called Hawkins Farmhouse Ales. They have their own cool ship. They're doing some really, really great stuff. Another fantastic newer brewery called Hedgehog, and I'm going to do a little show and tell here.
Very nice.
So I've got here 2 beers from Vista Brewing, which is out in Driftwood. They are both lambic style beers. I believe that they are mixed culture rather than purely spontaneous fermented. They're both also fruited, but with real fruit, not with syrup. There's one with plum here, the Grotto, and one with peaches, the Stonewall. I've also got, which I'm not going to be opening today because I'm aging it, but I couldn't resist showing it off. This is the Rough House Brewing Jester King collaboration cave aged beer, the premiere. It is actually aged in a cave on the Rough House grounds of their brewery. It's an actual cave. It's super, super cool.
That's cool.
Fully spontaneously fermented. I have tried it. It's amazing. But yeah, I'm aging that one. So
hey, I can't say anything. I often age beers. I've got an entire section of my basement over to my right, where I've got beers that are 1 year aging, beers that are 2 year aging, and there's a couple over there that are 3 year aging. And then for some of my big imperial stouts, I've got a few that are like 5 years old. So
nice.
It's funny. A lot of my friends
of this style of beer is you can age it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of my friends always ask me, how do you have that much willpower to let a beer sit on the shelf for that long?
Oh, yeah. When you know that the rewards are coming, it makes it a little bit easier.
Right. So mine, the Goose, has a nice kind of a orangish yellow color to it. Very little head when I poured it, and what was there has dissipated since I poured it out. fantastic aroma on this. I mean, as soon as I poured it into the glass, it just kind of wafted up to my face, and it's one of those that kind of like pulls you down towards the glass because you know you want to drink it. But it's got it's got that kind of acidic aroma to it right off the bat. But then once you get past the base acidity, you get that kind of funky grassiness, similar to a saison. You get that kind of like that barnyard kind of smell because it is a spontaneously fermented beer. So it pulls whatever happens to be in the air where it's being brewed. So, I mean, if there's a farm anywhere near, you're going to get some of those flavors in there. But yeah, it should be pale in color, and it should be slightly hazy. There should be little to no bitterness, but it should be pretty sour. And alcohol range on these is pretty varied. It can go anywhere from about 5 to anywhere to around 10, depending on the style.
This one, yep, the aroma is very similar to what you described. You first sort of get hit with that Greek yogurt acidity, and then the sort of barnyard funk. Because this is flavored with plums, there's a really like lovely, light, fresh, plummy note to it, which comes across immediately when you go in to taste it as well. And then the deeper yeasty flavors come after. It's a real joy to drink, and super dry despite the fruit presence,
right?
And really high carbonation, as you were saying.
Yeah. So for people who are interested, the proper glass for this is the tulip style glass. Oh, look at her with her fancy pinky up in the air. Oh, so refined. Proper serving temperature should be between 4 and 10 degrees Celsius. That's 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you who use freedom units. It pairs well with shellfish, particularly mussels, mascarpone and fruit. It pairs well with that. And then dessert wise, anything that's going to be rich and fatty. So like a rich chocolate cake with a heavy chocolate ganache on it. This would go well with, or it would go well with, it would actually go well with like a creme brulee as well, because it's got that sweetness and the sour will cut that. So it's it's a great beer. This one in particular, I hadn't had it before I bought this one. It's
so good. So good.
Yeah.
That very Fontaine, that's absolutely one of my favorites of the Belgian geezers. I really, can't wait to have some when I get home.
This is a 2018 mixed, 2018-2019. So it's a fairly early mix. It's kind of cool that they actually tell you what vintages they've mixed on it, so you know what you're getting, so you know what to expect. So I expect this to be a little bit more harsh than something that has been sitting for 4 or 5 years, or 3 or 4 years. It's going to be a little more harsh, but because they blend that 1 year with the 2 year, and then they let it sit for a year or so before they release it, it's really quite lovely.
When I was last at home a few months ago, I had the Boone 2017-2018 goose blend, and it was so beautiful. It was absolutely choice. Super dry, really sophisticated. I have got into this style a lot more recently. I was never not into it, but I actually started off with my interest in wine for a long time, probably slightly more than beer. I was thinking about sort of going into wine, and then I got sort of very into beer, and I've been sort of journeying back a bit. And for me, getting very into lambics and other Belgian mixed fermentation styles has been a really good sort of middle place between my love for beer and my love for wine, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, that makes perfect sense because they kind of do bridge that gap. Because they tend to be aged a little differently, and they tend to be treated a little differently than their standard ale or even a lager is. The fact that open fermentation, vessels, so you're gonna get a lot more like the traditional wine used to be done, and you get a lot more of that depth of character to these beers because of that. That's not to say that other ales and lagers don't have depth of character, but they don't hold a candle to a traditional lambic style beer because of the way that they're created. there is such a varied profile and such a varied palette of flavors that you're going to get from these. It's absolutely phenomenal.
I think that one of the most exciting things about the spontaneous fermentation is the sort of the element of unpredictability, and also the way that nature is influencing the flavor of the beer. And I think that that's why I'm really loving having these local Texan ones, because you're getting a real sort of taste of the flora and fauna that we actually have in Texas, which is really, really beautiful and really diverse. And I'm very much enjoying the fact that we have so many to choose from, and that they're really, really high quality. But that said, I'm also looking forward to getting home and having lots of Belgians as well.
So when's your next trip back home?
I'll be back in London late November for 3 weeks, so that's a good chance to stock up on a few of those, and as well as all the other fantastic British beers that I miss very much.
Yes. Well, I'm a huge fan of bitters. I'm a huge fan of a traditional IPA. You can keep your NEPAs and you can keep your West Coast. Give me a good old school British IPA. Give me an ESB all day long. I actually have a 30-liter keg of ESB in my cooler out in the garage, just so I always have it on hand.
Oh. Fantastic. Can I come over, please?
You're always welcome. I've got a spare room. You and the doc can come and stay for a while. We'll hit some breweries and we'll drink.
I do love a good ESB. I don't know if you can see, I'm actually wearing my camera. I'll do a little shift up. Campaign for Real Ale shirt, which is the organisation that really saved Real Ale from going into extinction in the 70s when it was so under threat by commercial mass-produced lager. It's still going strong. They're a fantastic organisation. My beer journey began with them. I was really, really into Real Ale before I was into any other type of beer. And they're a really, really fantastic group. And I still volunteer at camera events and attend camera events when I'm back in the UK. I love traditional English beer, cask beer so much. And we're lucky here in the Austin area because we have a really cool brewery called Acapon, and they brew almost entirely English style beers, and they do serve on cask. They have a fantastic dark mild called the Homunculus, really, really great ESB called Gas Pipe. So of a Sunday I can go up there, get my pint of cask, and it's sort of it's like being at home but a lot hotter. So
a lot hotter, a lot drier. Yeah. So do they serve with a traditional beer engine?
Yep.
Awesome.
They've got two cask taps. It's fantastic. Lovely, lovely people as well. So it's a great place to hang out. And such good quality beer, and totally sates the homesickness.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. Yeah, I've been trying to talk my wife into letting me buy a beer engine setup and putting casks in our crawl space that's on the other side of our brewing area, so that I could always just have a cask down in the crawl space, keeping it nice and cool, and have the beer engine up top and just pull a pint.
Hell yes, that sounds like a plan. Definitely. Yeah, do it.
So, getting back to Goose, for people who don't know, the brewery that I have mine from, this Fontinen, they actually almost went out of business in 2009. They had a malfunction with their temperature control system, and their entire lot of 30,000 bottles was destroyed. It exploded because it got too hot. And what kept them in business was they actually started buying stuff from Boone and who was the other one? It was I have to look it up because I can't remember the name of it now. Giardin.
I've lost visual on you. I can only hear you now.
That's all right. My system, it's recording locally for me and recording locally for you, so it should be fine. I can still see you. So yeah. So, I can see you bopping around over there all nice and peppy.
I had no idea that happened to Fontenay, and that would have been really tragic because they're such a great brewery. I've never actually been to Belgium and done the tour, so hopefully one of the next times that I get back home, that's going to be a priority, along with getting over to Germany and doing some more beer touring there.
Yeah, both of those places are on my list of places to get to in the next couple of years. I was actually supposed to be going on a big trip last year, but as we all know, nobody went on. Nobody went on any trips last year. So, but yeah, so one of the plans is to go to Belgium and just hit as many breweries as I can, and then get to Germany. My family is actually from Germany. I'm actually only the second generation born in North America. So I've got a huge part of my family, 75% of my family actually lives in Germany still. So, I mean, I could probably look them up and have a free place to stay.
Excellent. So many great beer cities with so many different styles that they specialize in. I mean, it's there's so much to explore. So it's another thing that's top of my list to do when it becomes possible again.
Right. So outside of lambics, what is your favorite beer style?
Good question. I don't really have a favorite beer style because I believe that with beer, as with most things, you have to have different ones for different moods, different weather, all kinds of different circumstances, different events. I mean, I went to a really, really great, very, very loud, thrashy gig last night. I probably wouldn't drink this there, even though I absolutely adore it. You're going to get me crushing cans of lager in that sort of event. But yeah, similarly, if you're like sitting out by an open fire in winter, then we want a lovely big imperial stout to go with that. I am less keen on IPAs than I used to be, and like you, if I do have them, I tend to prefer the English style ones. But I'm also not such a purist that I mean, I can enjoy a good fruit smoothie sour along with the rest of them. Particularly, I was at the Texas Craft Brewers Guild's annual beer festival at the weekend. Had some great smoothie sours there from people like B52 and Urban South. We have some again great breweries doing that here in Texas. So yeah, I really believe that it's all about the moment. The fantastic beer writer Pete Brown, I went to a talk he gave at Green Man Festival a couple of years ago, and he was saying exactly the same thing. He does beer and music pairing, and he said, it's all about context. You could be having the best time of your life, like on a beach, like on your honeymoon or whatever, and having a perfect moment, and you can just be drinking some regular macro lager, but it tastes like the best beer in the world at that moment. And I'm very much a believer in that philosophy.
Well, yeah, I like all sorts of styles, but my favorite is barrel aged imperial stouts, and I will fight people tooth and nail when they say, "Oh, those are winter beers." I'm like, no, those are year round beers. Those are sitting on the patio when it's 35 degrees Celsius out. You got a big old beer with you. A lot of my friends disagree, but a lot of my friends might be wrong.
I hear you. They are great in winter, but I would absolutely not rule out having them in summer, particularly if they're chilled, which you don't obviously need to do in winter. In fact, I remember going to Barcelona and Garage Brewing in Barcelona. They do some amazing Russian Imperial stouts, and having them when it's like 40 degrees out. But yeah, if they're properly chilled, they just go down so smooth.
Yep.
Beautiful stuff. So if that's your favorite style, have you ever been to the Festival of Barrel Aged Beer in Chicago?
I actually never have. I've had pretty much every beer that's ever been there, but I've never actually been in person. When I actually lived about an hour outside of Chicago when I lived in the States. It's where I'm from. It's a town called Rockford, Illinois. It's a little nowhere town in the upper part of the state, but about an hour from Chicago, like everybody else, from the Chicago area. But our big thing was every Black Friday was lining up to try and get all the Bourbon County that we could, because it's released every Black Friday.
Indeed. I'm actually going to FOBAB this year. It will be my first year, which is why I asked if you had any sort of top festival tips, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Drink as much as you can without getting completely drunk. That's my tip.
I'm currently in training. That's what I'm doing. I'm building up that tolerance. It's going to happen. But I just love the idea of all the barrel-aged stouts and all the barrel-aged sours and pretty much anything else that you can barrel-age in one place.
Oh, right.
Yeah, very exciting.
I've got on my shelf ready to crack this year around Christmas time sometime. I've got a barrel-aged barley wine that's been, it was 2 years old. It was 2 years aged when I put it on the shelf here. I got it from the brewery. It was 2 years aged, and it's been on my shelf for about a year now. So it'll be about 3 years aged. It should be fantastic come Christmas. And, it'll be super smooth, really nice and sweet because it's a barley wine. It'll hit you with that bitter after. I mean, because, for people who don't know, a barley wine is pretty much basically a really amped up IPA. It's if you took an IPA and you just said, hey, we're going to give you 4 times the malt that you normally have.
Well, I think that's, a reasonable description. I do love barley wine. But I do like the fact that they do vary somewhat in their flavors. I like the ones that are sort of very dense and sticky and yet have a slightly sort of vinous quality, almost sort of sherry-like quality. Mm-hmm. Which really, really appeals to me. And again, it's something that you associate with winter, but you can actually have any time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Most definitely. For people who don't have access to actual Belgian lambics, there are lots like you were saying. There are lots of breweries that put out lambic style beers. For my friends in the States, you can hit Upland Brewing. They have one called Sour Reserve, which is technically a lambic goose style. Supplication Brewing has their Russian River Brewing has Supplication, which is their lambic style. And if you happen to be in the Wisconsin area, because this particular brewery does not distribute outside of their home state of Wisconsin, New Glarus Brewing has one that they put out every once in a while called American Blackberry Sour, which is technically a lambic. It's a lambic style.
So looking forward to getting my teeth into tons of New Glarus when I go to Wisconsin. I absolutely can't wait.
Yes.
I've heard so many great things about their beer. I think the 1 or 2 I've tried, I've really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, so where I'm from, the town of Rockford is about 30 minutes away from Wisconsin. So we used to pop over the border all the time, and New Glarus Brewing was only about a 45-minute drive. So we were up there quite often on the weekends to grab beer. It was hard to do tours and stuff up there because they were always packed because they're a fantastic brewery. But you could always stop in and grab some beer, and they have a great selection of beers, and their most popular one is Spotted Cow, which is okay. But they have other beers that are much better. So, but yeah, it definitely if you get up to New Glarus, it's a fantastic little town, and New Glarus Brewing is a great brewery, and they're very hospitable. And if you exude a little bit of your feminine charm and your British your British accent there, they'll probably slide you into a group even if it's full, because they like to try and make themselves look as good as they can for foreign visitors.
Oh, lovely. Well, hopefully we'll be able to make it to the tap room. Even if we don't, I will be picking it up at every place I see it, without a doubt. The other brewery that's relatively accessible who does lambic styles is New Belgian. Yep. And they do distribute some of them. So, if you're here in the US, look out for those. They're not always available, but special releases, they do make it outside of Colorado some of the time.
Yep.
So definitely one to keep an eye out for.
They're also a brewery that if you happen to be going to Colorado, you might want to consider stopping in.
Hell yes. I had a lot of fun visiting their tap room. a brewery that I've loved for a long, long, long time. So,
Yep.
yeah, and to visit them and Odell, or it's like double bubble. So
Yep.
exciting.
Yeah.
Oh.
The last time I was out in Colorado, I didn't get to any of the big craft breweries. I hit a couple small little local breweries where I was staying. But the time before that, I got out there. I hit Odell, I hit New Belgium, and then I actually hit Avery, which is pre buyout is tells you how long ago it was. Is before they got bought out by whoever, InBev or Anheuser Busch or whoever it is who bought them. But yeah, I got to see where they were located at. They still make great beer, even if they're not independently owned anymore. They still make great beer. Mephistopheles is still one of my favorites. So,
Fort Collins is such a great spot.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, really. I think we did, New Belgium, Odell, Avery, and Funkworks in one day, plus lots of the smaller ones during the time that we were there. It's just so much going on in Colorado. I mean, obviously not as much as Texas, but anyway, I have to say.
I know. You got to have that Texas pride if you're going to live there.
Absolutely. Indeed. That's something you learn very quickly when you move here.
Yes, I have several friends that live. I actually have a couple of friends who actually live in Austin, and I've got some friends that live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've got some friends that live in Galveston. So yeah, I know all about the Texas pride thing.
It's great. It really it's a good environment overall, and the beer scene is very, very dynamic at the moment. There's so much going on. So many new breweries opening. Obviously, we did lose some because of COVID, which was very sad, but we had several that opened during COVID and many that have opened since and are in the process of opening. It's growing really, really fast, which is great because at present we're hugely underrepresented. So there's still a lot of space for more breweries, more beer,
Right.
and obviously more beer drinkers, of course.
Yeah, no. The more the better. I mean, I was just having this conversation with someone the other day. Someone who's supposed to be on my show later this coming season. He was trying to find a specific style from one of his local breweries, but he couldn't. So he was getting it from one that's in Cincinnati rather than his hometown. And jokingly, I said, "Oh, that damn Cincinnati beer." And he's like, "Oh, no, it's all good." He didn't pick up the context that I was just joking. He's like, I just got to represent a good brewer. I'm like, hey, I'm all for representing as many good microbreweries or craft breweries that you can, because they all need the exposure, and everybody needs to know that there's lots of good beer out there. It doesn't matter where you're at. You can probably find some good beer somewhere close to you.
Absolutely. And Cincinnati is another great beer city. I've been a couple of times. Really, really enjoyed exploring the scene there, and can't wait to get back to Chicago and get involved with everything going on there.
So in Chicago, you got to hit Revolution, you got to hit Off Color. What's the other one? You got to hit. What's the other? Is it? I can't think of. Shoot, I'm drawing a blank. It's been a while. I mean, obviously, you got to hit the big ones like Bourbon County. You got to hit Goose Island, Bourbon County. You got to hit if you can.
Half Acres in Chicago, isn't it?
Half Acre is in Chicago. Yes, as well. Yes,
I'll be looking forward to that. So. I love Revolution beers. They've been one of my favorite breweries for such a long time. And that's the first tap room that my husband and I ever visited together long before we were married, like 7 years ago. And I cannot wait to get back. We haven't actually been back since then. So it's going to be fantastic to be back there.
Awesome. Well, we have reached the end of the show. Believe it or not, we've been talking for a little over half an hour because, that's what happens when you have beer in your hand.
Indeed.
All right. I would like to thank anybody who watches this for actually taking the time to watch it, or if you're just listening to it. If you like it, please click like on it. Please subscribe. Click little bell if you want to be notified when you're going to hear my wonderful voice once again, and whoever happens to be across the screen from me. If you have any questions or comments or concerns for me or for Ruvani,
Ruvani, yeah.
Please leave them in the comment section below. If they're for me, I'll answer them. If they're for her, I will forward them on, and I'm sure she will be more than happy to answer any questions you have. She's very active on the socials.
Absolutely. You can find me at amethyst_heels on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find my writing all over the place, but it's collected on my blog, which is just Craft by Amethyst. So, yeah. Stay in touch.
Excellent. All right. Well, until next time, I'm Rob from the internet. Cheers.
Cheers.